An all-new Eye on the Bay in HD starts right now.
On this Eye on the Bay, beneath my feet, a buried ship that hasn't seen the light of day in 160 years. And high atop that building resides possibly one of the most famous salesmen in all the world. Down this dark alley, cuisines from around the world. Where in the Bay Area am I? Tonight, a fascinating journey through an often overlooked neighborhood that you have got to explore for yourself.
We're your Gotta Get Away for the Day guide, your Let's Try a New Place to Eat guide, even your Hey, It Really Happened Here guide. We're the tour guide with you in mind. Eye on the Bay.
Inside the bounds of this world-renowned skyline, below the towering skyscrapers that lurk above the 9-to-5 grind, sits the financial epicenter of the West Coast, one of the most historic neighborhoods the Bay Area has ever known. And if you've never walked its streets, you've missed a quintessential Bay Area 101 experience. If you guess San Francisco's financial district, you're spot on. I've often heard that a lot of people don't like it because they don't like navigating the parking or the traffic, or that it's not one of San Francisco's most glamorous neighborhoods. But tonight, we're going to give you good reason to come explore it for yourself. From the history that shaped our present day, to the not-so-obvious places to chow down, to walking tours that'll make you look up. We'll even introduce you to a famed salesman. You may have heard of his claim to fame.
Chia.
We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. The neighborhood itself seems huge and imposing, but in fact, it's really very small. That's because it's sandwiched between other famous neighborhoods on every edge. Union Square, south of Market, the Embarcadero, Jackson Square, North Beach, Chinatown. But there is something that is big about it. There are 28 skyscrapers above 30 floors in the district. Most of them popped up during the 70s and 80s during a period that opponents called the Manhattanization of San Francisco. That was back when Dianne Feinstein was mayor. Now, since then, stricter building requirements has slowed the mass uprising until recently. It's great to walk through the district at the height of the business day. Often called the Wall Street of the West, San Francisco's home to many major bank, investment, and law firms. And in terms of financial power west of the Mississippi, San Francisco's always been number one. Just take a look back in time. If we were standing here 160 years ago, what would we be standing in?
In water.
Archaeologist Alan Pastron says we wouldn't even be walking in downtown San Francisco.
We would be swimming.
Because in the mid-1800s, there was no downtown San Francisco.
It was all just open bay.
And now it's a Starbucks. Beginning in 1849, people rushed to San Francisco, on ships mostly.
But at the height of the gold rush, there were many, many ships in the harbor.
And it wasn't just the passengers who left those ships. The crew deserted to find their fortune in the gold fields too. So the boats just rotted in the bay. Meanwhile, on shore, there was a shortage of buildings.
Clever entrepreneurs would purchase them, drag them up, tie them to a wharf, convert them, and voila, you have an instant building.
Those ships became San Francisco's earliest stores, saloons, and hotels.
That's how the financial district was built. The first things that were built from the shoreline were the east-west running piers.
It wasn't long until the store/ships became landlocked and wharfs doubled as city streets. Just looking at all these, though, I mean, what is now Sacramento Street, Clay Street, Sansom, these were all wooden boardwalks.
That's right.
With water on either side of them.
That's right, and
after a massive fire in 1851, the ships burned down to their hulls, and the water between the piers and the wharfs was filled in to create what is, today, San Francisco's financial district. But what happened to all those old ships? They're still here. I mean, here.
The Niantic is probably the most famous of all of San Francisco's store ships. The bow portion is essentially under these trees.
Archaeologists discovered the whole of the Niantic near the base of the Transamerica Pyramid.
And now we're walking toward the location of the store ship Apollo.
Buried beneath the old Federal Reserve building.
The ship that I excavated is one block to the north, at Clay and Battery Streets, and if you'd like, we'll walk there now.
10 years ago, during construction of this building, Allen and a team unearthed the hull of the General Harrison and sorted through its original cargo.
Which consisted of grains, barley, beans, crates of wine with wine still in the bottles,
And thousands of copper nails, replicas of which you can see preserved in the sidewalk cement. And the General Harrison is still here too. It's sitting underneath the Starbucks.
It's sitting underneath the Starbucks, and a century and a half from now, when this comes down, maybe some 22nd century archaeologists will have another shot at it.